Mr. President, I was disturbed to read in the Washington Post this morning that some kind of agreements are being made here. Somehow that Democrats have agreed to raise the level of from $250,000 to $450,000, and that somehow there's been an agreement reached that we would keep the estate taxes at the $5 million level at 35%. Well, all I can say, Mr. President, this is one Democrat that doesn't agree with that at all. Then what it looks like is all of the tax things are going to be made permanent, but all of the other things that the middle class in America really depends on is extended for 1 year, well, maybe 2 years, 1 year or 2 years at the most, but the tax system is made permanent. Well, I just think that's grossly unfair, grossly unfair. And then again, you know, we're going to lock in forever the idea that $450,000 a year is middle class in America. And need I remind people that at $250,000 a year, that's the top 2% income earners in America. Now, I know the president keeps saying he wants to protect tax cuts for the middle class. Fine, I'm all for that. You go up to $250,000, that's a tough pill to swallow, because that covers everyone except the top 2%. So if you make $250,000 a year, you're not middle class. You're in the top 2% of income earners in America. What have we forgotten? Have we forgotten that average income earners in America are making $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year? That's the real middle class in America. And they're the ones that are getting hammered right now. You're getting hammered with housing costs, rental, heating bills, kids going to school. They have no retirement. Now they're talking about raising the retirement age on people who work hard every day, stand on their feet, women standing on their feet every day for 30, 40 years. Going to raise the retirement age again on them? Well, again, if we're going to have some kind of a deal, the deal must be one that really does favor the middle class, the real middle class, those that are making $30,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. That's the real middle class in America. And as I see this thing developing, quite frankly, as I've said before, no deal is better than a bad deal, and this looks like a very bad deal, the way this is shaping up. So I just want to make it clear, I'm all in favor of compromise. I've been here a long time, Mr. President. I've made a lot of compromises. I'm willing to make more compromises. But this is one point in time where decisions that are made on this so-called deal, decisions that are made could lock in for the next 10 years what kind of a country we're going to be, what kind of a society we're going to be. So we better be darn careful. Now, if no deal is reached, then on the tax side, we go back to the taxes that were enacted under President Clinton. Now, we all voted, at least all the Democrats here voted, that were here then, voted for the Clinton tax bill in 1993. And we heard all kinds of talk from the other side of the aisle how this was going to be disastrous, it was going to kill the economy, it was just going to be awful. And not one Republican supported it. But we passed it. President Clinton signed it into law, and guess what happened? The economy took off. Unemployment came down, the economy started going, and we were paying down the deficit. We had, 3 straight years or 4 of surpluses? CBO said that if we continued on that way, we would pay off the national debt by 2010. Well, then George Bush came into office. They looked at all the surpluses out there, and they said, guess what? We've got to take some of that and give it back in tax cuts. And that's what they did. Now, that's what's ending tonight. That's what ends tonight, are those Bush tax cuts. So we go back to the tax system that we had under Bill Clinton. I ask, what's so bad about that? It worked pretty darn well. The economy was going well. We were paying down the deficit. Things were going well under Bill Clinton, under that tax system, and that's what we'll go back to tomorrow. What's so bad about that? Well, what's happened is in the last 10 years, a lot of people have gotten very rich in this country. Very rich. And now they want to protect their wealth. And that's what they want to do. They want to lock in this system on estate taxes and lower tax rates up to $450,000 or $500,000 or $1 million or whatever they want. They want to lock that in. Well, I think it's time for them to start paying their fair share, and they did under the Clinton tax provisions that we had in place at that time. So to go back to the tax provisions that we had under Bill Clinton doesn't frighten me one bit. But now we hear the same song and dance from the Republicans. Oh, if we do that, the sky is going to fall. The world will end tomorrow. The markets will just go all to heck. We heard that in 1993, and it was wrong. We're hearing it again today about what will happen if we go back to the Clinton-era tax provisions. They say the sky is going to fall. They're wrong again. They're just wrong again. So I, for one, do not fear going back to a system of taxation that basically worked very well for our country. It was only the Bush tax cuts that messed everything up for 10 years and allowed a few people to get very rich, but kept the middle class from advancing any at all. So again, this idea that somehow a deal is going to be cooked up that's going to make permanent all these tax advantages that people had over the last 10 years and that they have now in estate taxes, they're going to make that permanent, somehow does not sit well with this senator. And yet everything else, when we're talking about unemployment insurance, when we're talking about investments in other parts of our economy, the sustainable growth rate for our hospitals and our doctors and Medicare, well, that's only good for 1 year, you see.
This has been a Sunfish production.